A woman stepped into the street and began to dance uncontrollably in 1518. She danced for days without stopping, and soon others joined her. Over 50 people were swept up in the bizarre dancing frenzy. The dancers moved with such intensity that some collapsed from exhaustion, and a few might have died from heart attacks and strokes. Local authorities were baffled, believing it was a curse or divine punishment. Now, they tried to cure the dancers by encouraging more dancing, thinking it would expel the madness. But it only spread further, lasting for over a month before mysteriously fading away. The last bone in your cat's toes are completely amputated and removed if you want them declawed. Then the tendons and ligaments are also severed, removing the claw completely. As they heal, cats experience intense pain as they learn to walk with amputated toes. They struggle with balance, jumping, and walking, which can lead to long-term mobility issues. And even once they're completely healed, your cat might have chronic pain and arthritis. A family ran from their burning home in the middle of the night. The parents and 4 kids escaped, but 5 children never made it out. After the fire died down, rescuers searched the ash, but no remains were found. Experts said the blaze was so hot it completely cremated them, but it only burned for 45 minutes, which isn't long enough to turn bones into ash. Now, some thought the kids had been kidnapped, and others even claimed to see the children alive, hundreds of miles away. The parents never stopped searching, convinced the fire wasn't the end of their children, but they have never been found. The man fell onto an air hose, and the nozzle pierced his butt. Now, this was actually a high-pressure air hose, and it pumped air into his body at 100 psi. In minutes, the man swelled to twice his normal size. His coworkers rushed to stop the air supply, but he had already inflated like a balloon. The air had filled his abdomen, chest, and even his face. Paramedics tried to treat him, but the pressure pushed the IV out of his skin. The man deflated back to normal after 3 days and ended up living. If you dropped a nuke into an active volcano, it would most likely just melt before it could detonate. But if the nuke was transported into the magma chamber and timed just right, the intense explosion could vaporize the lava, turning it into a superheated gas. This lava vapor would rapidly expand, causing an enormous pressure wave. The explosion would send molten rock, ash, and gas high into the atmosphere. When a honeybee stings a human, they actually get stuck for a while and can't leave. And this is because their stinger is barbed, which means it can't retract once it's lodged into something. But once the bee finally pulls away, its insides get ripped out because the stinger stays in the skin. This leaves the bee without some of its internal organs, resulting in its death. Have you ever wondered why popcorn pops? Well, each kernel of popcorn contains a tiny drop of water, and when heat is applied, this water turns into steam, building pressure within the kernel. Eventually, the hard outer shell can't handle the pressure and bursts open. This explosion flips the kernel inside out, and the soft starch inflates into what we know as popcorn. You know when you're about to fall asleep and your body suddenly jerks? Well, this is known as a hypnic jerk, and no one really knows why it happens. You see, it takes place as your brain is switching from being awake to falling asleep. And the theory is that your brain gets confused during this time, thinking that you're falling down instead of falling asleep. So instinctually, it sends a quick jolt to your body. If you were swallowed by a humpback whale, they don't really have traditional teeth like a shark, which means they probably wouldn't hurt you. And because this whale's throat is really small, there's really no way it could actually gulp you down. But if you did somehow manage to squeeze your way down its throat, you would find yourself stuck in the whale's stomach, which is not equipped for large prey. And eventually, the lack of oxygen and harmful gases would limit your chances chances of survival. If you swallow gum, they say it stays in your stomach for 7 years. Apparently, the gum can't be digested and gets stuck in your body. But this is only partially accurate. You see, it is true that your digestive system can't break down gum, but it doesn't get stuck, and it still does move through your body. It just comes out whole and untouched, kind of like corn. You know how you have to take out your laptop in airport security? I mean, everything else can stay in your bag, but your laptop or any device bigger than a phone has to be removed. Why is this? Well, it's because these larger devices have complicated components that are difficult for X-rays to see through. And this creates blind spots where people could theoretically hide weapons that go undetected. If your hand is cut off, a bionic arm can help you regain movement by using signals from your muscles. When you think about moving your hand, your muscles send electrical signals. Electrodes on the bionic arm pick up these signals and translate them into movements. The motors inside the arm activate, allowing it to mimic the movements of a real hand. With practice, you can control the bionic arm to perform precise tasks. An arrow lodged 6 inches into the boy's cheek. The removal tool entered the hole with 2 slender arms that were inserted into the arrowhead. A needle probe was pushed down the middle, forcing the arms to then expand and gripping the hollow socket tightly. This allowed it to be carefully pulled out without breaking off inside the face. The wound was then treated with alcohol, and the boy later became King Henry V. Sheep are guided into this cage, and the top is closed over them, trapping them into place. Then it lowers into a tank filled with a parasite treatment. The sheep are completely submerged into the liquid for a few seconds. Then the cage lifts the sheep back out of the dip, and excess liquid drains off. The process repeats 2 to 3 times to make sure the sheep are fully coated in the parasite treatment. This thorough dipping helps protect the flock from fleas and ticks. If you shoot a bullet at a riot shield, you might think it would block the projectile, but that's not actually the case. Most riot shields are made of a lightweight plastic, designed to protect against thrown objects like rocks and bottles, not bullets. When a bullet strikes a standard riot shield, it can easily penetrate or shatter the shield, putting the person behind it at serious risk. The inside of an igloo can be up to 60 degrees warmer than the outside, which is confusing because igloos are made of snow. So how does this work? Well, the snow used to build igloos is tightly compressed and full of tiny air pockets. This makes it a pretty effective insulation. And as you put off body heat, these snow walls prevent it from escaping, keeping it inside. Additionally, the dome shape allows the warm air to circulate evenly, keeping the temperature consistent throughout. A woman and her 2 children ate a puffer fish for breakfast and suddenly couldn't breathe. Her husband had prepared and cooked the fish at home, but puffer fish contains a deadly toxin, and it can only be consumed safely when prepared by trained chefs. After eating the fish, they began experiencing severe symptoms. And tragically, both the woman and her child succumbed to the toxin before they could reach a hospital. Bend the paperclip into a straight line, then create a small hook at one end. Carefully insert the hooked end into the keyhole of the handcuffs. Feel around inside for the locking mechanism. It's a small bar that holds the cuffs shut. Once you've located it, gently push the hook upwards to lift the locking bar. As you do this, apply pressure on the cuff by pulling outwards slightly. With the lock lifted and the tension applied, the cuff should spring open, freeing your wrist. Have you ever noticed that some people get a ton of mosquito bites, but other people don't? I mean, are mosquitoes really that picky about who they target? Why is this? Well, for some reason, mosquitoes are really attracted to people with type O blood. They receive nearly twice as many mosquito bites compared to those with type A blood. But there are other factors at play. Your breath, body heat, and even the bacteria on your skin play a part in attracting mosquitoes. The water started to recede rapidly, exposing the ocean floor. People were confused and started to notice the wave coming closer to the shore. This was a massive tsunami, triggered by an undersea earthquake. As the wave approached, it grew in height, reaching up to 100 feet in some places. It slammed into the area with unimaginable force, obliterating everything in its path. The wave swept entire neighborhoods away, leaving nothing behind but rubble. And over 167,000 people lost their lives in this region alone. If you pinch your skin really hard, you might get a red, painful bump that fills with blood. This is known as a blood blister, and it's the result of damaged blood vessels under the skin. Now, since the skin doesn't actually break, the blood gets trapped right under the surface. The blister acts as a cushion protecting the injured area, and as it heals, the red color fades as the blood is reabsorbed back into the body. A group of friends suddenly spotted a creature with large wings and glowing red eyes standing in the road. Terrified, they drove away, but the creature took flight and followed them. It swooped over them repeatedly, emitting a horrifying screech. They finally lost it, but were left shaken, convinced they had encountered something supernatural. This terrifying case became one of the most famous Mothman sightings. These unverified sightings began to spread fear throughout West Virginia. Now, most believe it was simply a local legend fueled by fear and hysteria. But with no concrete evidence, the Mothman remains an eerie mystery. A doctor applies the liquid nitrogen directly to the wart, which can cause the skin to blister. This process destroys the wart tissue by freezing it, which kills the cells. And over the next few days, the dead tissue will start to peel away. The body then begins to heal the area underneath, and new skin forms. In a week or two, the wart will fall off, leaving behind the healthy skin. If you fall into a grain bin, most people might try to climb out, but this is nearly impossible due to the shifting grain, which acts like quicksand and can cut off your ability to breathe. Instead, you should create an air pocket around your face by cupping your hands. If you're trapped and sinking, move slowly to avoid further entrapment. Call for help and stay calm, keeping an air pocket around your face until rescue arrives.